Welcome to Al-Haq's virtual field visit on Israel's enforcement of the buffer zone in the Gaza Strip. The Gaza Strip has an area of 360 square kilometres, with a population of about 1.6 million, most of whom are refugees. Since Israel withdrew its forces and illegal settler population from the territory in 2005, the Gaza Strip has been placed under a military blockade. It is surrounded by a fence, and the crossing points are controlled by Israel to the north and east, and Egypt to the south. The so-called buffer zone is a military no-go area that extends along the entirety of the Gaza Strip's border with Israel as well as at sea. The buffer zone allegedly responds to the occupying power's legitimate security concerns, yet Israel's unilateral expansion of this restricted area and its enforcement mechanisms seriously infringe upon the rights of protected persons and cause many civilian casualties. Since the beginning of the Second Intifada, Israel has been progressively implementing restrictions on fishermen's access to the sea. The initial 20 nautical miles agreed under the 1994 Gaza-Jericho Agreement between Israel and the PLO was reduced to 12 nautical miles under the never-implemented 2002 Bertini Commitment. In 2006, the fishing zone was reduced to 6 nautical miles off the coast, and 2 years later to just 3. To the north and south, Palestinians are also prohibited from accessing narrow strips along the maritime boundaries with Israel and Egypt. Overall, Palestinians are prevented from accessing 85% of the maritime areas they are entitled to according to the 1994 Gaza-Jericho Agreement. Currently, the buffer zone on land extends over approximately 17% of the territory of the Gaza Strip, and depending on the specific area, farmers are effectively prevented from accessing land located up to 1,500 metres from the fence. 95% of the restricted area is arable, meaning that the buffer zone takes up over a third of the Gaza Strip's agricultural land. In January 2009, Israel's Air Force dropped thousands of pamphlets along the border areas of the Gaza Strip, warning that anyone found within 300 metres of the border would be eliminated. However, in reality, Palestinians have come under severe threat anywhere within 1,000 metres of the border, and in some places as much as 1,500 metres. Opening fire at people accessing this area, as well as land levelling and property destruction, are common and widespread practices. However, they are carried out irregularly and unpredictably. The precise depth and overall size of the buffer zone are uncertain, as are the parameters defining access to the restricted area. Although the occupying power carries out land incursions into the buffer zone an average of 3 to 4 times every week, and naval forces continuously patrol the coast, the buffer zone is not physically demarcated. Additionally, the occupying power has failed to effectively inform the civilian population of the extent of the buffer zone and the applicable regime. Israeli occupying forces often use live ammunition to enforce the buffer zone, both on land and at sea. Since the beginning of 2010, stone collectors have been increasingly under attack by Israeli soldiers. In 2009, Al-Haq documented 7 cases of rubble collectors injured by live ammunition in the vicinity of the buffer zone, whereas this number was 10 times higher during 2010, when 68 rubble collectors, of whom 15 were children, were shot. Fishermen are also targeted on a daily basis, with many incidents occurring outside the buffer zone. In some cases, the Israeli occupying forces fire rockets and shoot bullets at the Palestinian boats at sea or on the shore in order to destroy them, thus preventing the fishermen from working. A sample of Al-Haq's documentation is presented on this map. There is an interactive version on the virtual field visit section of Al-Haq's website, where you can find out more about the people who live and work in and around the buffer zone. Thank you for taking the time to watch this tour. For more detailed information about Israel's enforcement of the buffer zone in the Gaza Strip, including a legal analysis, download Al-Haq's report from the publication section of our website. You can also follow Al-Haq on Facebook and Twitter.
overwhelmingly focus on the rockets that have been fired from Gaza. What is not in focus are the shellings and bombardments on Gaza, which have resulted in numerous severe and fatal casualties. It does not take an expert in media science to understand that what we are facing is at best shoddy and skewed reporting, and at worst, willfully dishonest manipulation.
Military attacks and violence in the Gaza Strip and Israel have resulted at this point in about 20 deaths, most of them Palestinians. The immediate spark for this round of violence was Israel's killing of Hamas military leader Ahmad al-Jabari on November 14th. But although CNN's Fred Pleitgen claimed that it's almost obsolete to try to lay blame on anyone, the fact is corporate media do lay blame, with timelines that almost invariably stress that Israel is responding to violent attacks by Palestinians. It was no surprise that the first sentence of the front-page New York Times article November 14th states that the Israeli assault came, quote, after persistent Palestinian rocket fire, close quote. On NPR's All Things Considered, Audie Cornish explained that, quote, the strikes were in retaliation for the launching of more than 100 rockets at Israel in recent days, close quote. A timeline on the website Electronic Intifada points out events that corporate press mostly ignore. Israeli forces killed an unarmed man in Gaza on November 4th and a 13-year-old boy on November 8th. Gaza militants injured 4 Israeli soldiers in an attack November 10th, and Israel's 3-day response killed 5 civilians, 3 of them children. That was when most of those rocket attacks in Gaza occurred. A tentative truce seemed to be in place as of the 13th. The next day, Israel killed Ahmad al-Jabari. There might be a number of ways to present that information, but sadly, there's little mystery about how the U.S. press will do it.
Bias and dishonesty with respect to the oppression of Palestinians is nothing new in Western media and has been widely documented. Israel continues its crimes against humanity with full acquiescence and financial, military, and moral support from our governments, the U.S., Canada, and the EU. The lack of widespread public outrage at these crimes is a direct consequence of the systematic way in which the facts are withheld and/or of the skewed way these crimes are portrayed. We wish to express our outrage at the reprehensible media coverage of these acts in the mainstream corporate media. We call on journalists around the world working for corporate media outlets to refuse to be instruments of this systematic policy of disguise. We call on citizens to inform themselves through independent media and to voice their conscience by whichever means is accessible to them. Let's put an end to these crimes. Let's control our governments. Please use the tools below to share this video with everyone you can. You can subscribe to help build up this channel and the promotional channel, Rep Press, and you can join the email list or subscribe to the blog, because I've heard from many people saying they're not getting the new videos in their subscription feed. Also, these 3 videos are worth watching. That's why it'd be good to share this video with as many people as you can, because it also contains links to these 3 videos. See additional info in the video description.
Holy crap! This is a real-life laser rifle, cutting through metal like nothing. Well, they were cutting with metal 50 years ago. And so the big question was, what is that one up in the corner when this Gaza bombing? The one behind me, that's a Gaza bombing. But that one up here, that don't put up no debris. That don't put up no fireballs. That's not putting up any smoke. You don't see any dead Palestinian children, arms or legs flying through the air like you do with the other explosions. And laser weapons, whether you realize or not, have been around for a very, very long time. Here's a picture I mashed together. This one over here is the official Boeing, I think it is, propaganda machine. Now that's not a real shot you're seeing over there. Look at the white light though at the bottom of it, and look what the projection is, the straight light. Now look at the one alongside of me. See that white light? And look at the projection. Now, what makes this really interesting is we all know what the next generation of weapons are. Even in 2006, there was no doubt what the next generation of weapons is going to be. This company called Rafael developed a new high-energy laser weapon for Israel. A high-energy weapon for Israel. And not only just one, they have multiple, all kinds of devices, and they got everything else on the drawing blocks ready to go. The American military are deploying ships with lasers right now. This year, it's out there. And the laser, you can see the difference in what the explosions are going to be like. And so this is a huge thing for these. But we got the first kill now, and it's Israeli using Gaza as usual for experiments. We're looking at the first confirmed microwaving of humans. And so our entire history up to this point has been about getting our hands on these maniacal weapons. And then our entire future will be looking back on this point where they were first used. And Israel was the first country to get caught at it. And they're melting people. And so they want to lob in these big bombs all around me to destroy the footprint of the laser. But first they got to go in there and they got to get samples. They got to go in and see how clean cut it made or what kind of damage it done. And that's going to take quite a bit. And so Benjamin Netanyahu, of course, he needs what he calls a sustained battle to defeat 10,000 Hamas. So 7 million people in Israel are useless. They can't even fight 10,000 people. In order for them to fight 10,000 people, Israel had to go out and create 5 million refugees, because they couldn't go fight the 10,000 Hamas that they created and that they fund and that they allow them to operate in order to demonize them to get the other. Now you see this little piece of land right there, that little green snot in the last photo over. My finger will disappear if I go too far. That's Gaza. 25 miles long by 4 to 7 miles wide, because Israel has annihilated everything. And right now there's about 125 square miles left. That little snot of land right above me, right on my finger there, that little green. We'll look at it over there now. They got the rest of it almost gone where they chewed it all up. And fishermen, if they go in the water at all, they get attacked. But they're not allowed to work 3 miles off land. The disproportionate is like something we've never seen before. Disproportionately, Hamas is not capable. And once again, just to remind everybody, Iran has 49 bases around it. 49 bases. How are they going to sneak out and attack Israel with 49 stocked bases of Israeli weapons? Because they're closer. And so Israel is the 4th biggest weapons producer on the planet, right? Israel's the 4th biggest producer on the planet. And so they got the Americans scared crapless to the point where they don't know where to put any more bases. They got the entire place. And so they have electronic warfare going on. They're polluting them. They're hitting with microwaves. Israel wants peace, but it's got 49 bases by America around them. So they don't want peace. That's the last thing they want. Peace is not good for the 4th biggest weapons producer on the planet. What are they going to do if they got peace? Israel is a militarized society. Everybody has to serve. They got to go kill the Palestinians or they go to jail. There's no options. Now, proportionally, you can see what Israel can do. If you took all of Hamas's rockets and multiplied it by about 100,000 that they fired at Israel, every one of them, you still cannot do what's in that single picture. Do you understand the significance of what I'm saying to you? Proportionally. 5 million refugees that they drove out of there. And Jordan's got 1 million. Where's Jordan getting the water? Where's Jordan going to get the land? Jordan can't give them driver's licenses. They can't let them go to their schools. Jordan can't do nothing. In fact, Israel has spent so much money to get all that land that they could probably give each Palestinian, including the ones in the refugee camps, the 5 million in refugee camps, and all of them in Gaza, $6 to $10 million each. And they can immigrate anywhere they want and they'll be fine. But no, Israel has to slaughter them. Israel had to find a reason to go in there to burn up that country and try out their laser weapons. Netanyahu said Hamas will pay for the killing of the 3 Israeli teens. But it turns out Hamas didn't kidnap and didn't kill the 3 Israeli teens. But Benjamin Netanyahu was determined Hamas will pay. Now Hamas is 10,000. 10,000 people that shouldn't be there, that shouldn't have got elected, that wasn't expecting to get elected, that were kind of hoping to get a member in, but they certainly weren't expecting to become the Palestinian Authority. They were created because the people that are there now don't even know how Hamas started. They got rid of all of them. They got rid of all the links that links back to them. But you can't get rid of history. Lasers are no longer a Star Wars fantasy. Israel is developing a portable iron beam. Portable. 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 What part about that is the people couldn't wrap their mind around?